Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is a record of the incident that happened on July 30th, 2020, where I lost elevator control on my SPAT 13. Now, I was in the middle of an engagement, and there were, I think, 1d7 left, I think. So the guy fires a couple of shots towards my rear of the SPAT. Now, I didn't really notice anything unusual at the moment until I straightened my wind out. It was then that I noticed a massive pitch up, and I looked back and I noticed that my elevator wasn't working. Now, originally I freaked out because I was in the middle of a combat situation. There were planes and I was looking, making sure I wasn't being attacked, and now I had to deal with this problem. What I noticed was that there was a D7 just off my 3 o'clock, and the guy was trying to get a nose up on me, and I was calling out, basically making my situation known that I had no elevator, and that um, I was at risk of being shot down. Now, thankfully, everybody in the group understood and they copied, but still, I was in the midst of freaking out, so it was more of a like, help, 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 that kind of stuff. And it was until I got myself into the following situation where I was trying to figure out how to control my plane the best way possible. And so I decided, okay, you know what, straighten out, you might gain some altitude, but then I realized that as I straightened out, my pitch became dangerously close to a stall, and I entered into a freaking spin. Now, had the pitch on my elevator been higher, I probably wouldn't have made it back to base. But thankfully, I applied opposite rudder, lowered my throttle, and that straightened my plane out. But Mueller was still hot on my shit, and I was making it clear that he was onto me, and then the Spaz showed up and was using me as a dragon back to try and get this guy. Now, really, my goal was to stay out of his guns as this guy was trying to get him, and I found that split S's were really helpful in shaking him off, and the Spaz got a couple good shots into him, so it was out of my attention. He wasn't focusing on me. So I took the opportunity to kind of get a broad assessment of various objects at various distances, make sure that nobody was planning on attacking me at this particular moment. Now, as for the moment, I shouldn't have focused on heading south. I think I was more disoriented, and this kind of put me right below the guy, and that would have been very bad. I trucked over to the left, there was another spawn, and that was not a threat, so I decided to just head down and get my plane out of the fight. Now, for perspective, I should have just headed north. I should have kept my plane going at a relatively level place and just headed north. But I didn't do that. Instead, I chose to go down, which put me at quite a big disadvantage, because if anybody wanted to attack me, now was the time. But eventually I sort of straightened myself out, started heading north. Um, to get an idea of my location, I was south on friendly territory just south of the village. So relatively, if I was to ditch, I would be fine. But I didn't like that German too much, so I wanted to try and deny his kill. And as you can see, my threat assessment was escalated quite severely. I was basically just looking around, just going crazy. um, really it was a sensory overload, just looking around, making sure that nobody was going after you, that kind of thing. And the I was looking in front of me. I noticed that there was a town with smoke off to the left of my engine, and further left towards the west was the airfield. But I noticed that the G7 was going down, so the threat assessment was that we were in the clear, at least from my perspective. Um, Again, I was shouting out that I had lost an elevator, that I was gonna head back to the base, yada yada yada. Probably annoying everybody. I didn't mean to. It was just freaking out in the moment. Um, as for controls, what was happening was I was banking left and right to get rid of the lift in my wings, and I was using the rudder to change my direction, relative to the horizon, and that was really my control. I never thought about using the rudder elevator because I didn't see any threat there, but really I guess whatever keeps your plane flying, you just do that. Now the idea for this video is not that this is a rare situation or that I'm special in any way, shape, or form. It was really just a precaution to put on the website just in case we had someone go through this and they need to get a rough idea of what could potentially happen before it happened. It was really just a precaution, really no way of saying that somebody else couldn't do this, because everybody can do this, I think, if you have the proper circumstances and the proper idea on how to control the plane. You should have no problem with this. I am roughly about grid square away from sorry, a grid square away from the airport, known as the Meadows, which is the aerodrome we originally took off from. And only peeve I have is that I noticed that I wasn't quite looking around, and I should have been looking around quite often. And really, I should have headed further west, because I kind of went to the east side of the airport, but I think I was more freaked out, so I wasn't quite thinking clearly. But if I was thinking clearly, I would have gone for the west side of the airport, because it would be further from no man's land. The Germans on this particular map, on this particular day, were heading over into friendly territory like freaking crazy. And there was, sorry, and there was some, small turbulence down below. I would like to think that they probably couldn't get a good shot on me down here, but you never know. I noticed that just past the airfield there was a couple of blips, dark spots in the sky. I assumed that those were friendlies, and I made a call out just to make sure that they were friendlies, and I confirmed that I was right. Um, and later on I eventually noticed that a span by his flares down below. Had he not done that, I wouldn't have seen his approach, and it could have been a ground crash fatality. And so, thankfully, I saw that before I decided to land. Yep, there you see it. And you can see the guy down below trying to land. And I decided, okay, not the best choice to land right now. You might as well circle around the airport, let this guy land, and then try and make the approach in the relative safety of a clear runway. Now, In this approach, I tended to shorthand my approach. That way, if in the case I lost complete control of my aircraft, it wasn't going to get close to where any friendlies could potentially be landing, and it was relatively safe. Now, as you noticed in the turn, I was playing with my power, trying to keep my plane from stalling, whilst also trying to avoid entering a spin. And then when I level out the wings, you can see how quick my lift changes just from leveling out the wings. In this process, I decided lowering some power and banking little by little would be enough to flare my approach. Still quite a bouncy landing, but no problems there. And should you find yourself in this situation, my main thing would be don't panic, stay away from spin, and try to get as deep into friendly territory as possible to stand the best chance of surviving. That's all. And that concludes the incident for July 30th, 2020. Full loss of elevator control on the SPAT 13 model. And we'll see you next time.